In need of a second job, I've responded to a job listing that I found online. The job was an overnight janitorial position at a packaging facility in rural Pennsylvania. Little did I know, working alone and on my own would have felt like the worst mistake of my life. Fast forward, my first night on the job. I was given keys to gain access to the building. When I arrived on site, it began to rain. It was already dark. I gained entrance to the warehouse side of the building and proceeded down a long, dark, and dim hallway. I began what would be my nightly routine. Even though I was given a tour of the facility the previous day during daylight hours, I was finding it very difficult to find my way around. The place was unrecognizable in the dark. I was having a hard time remembering where all the master light switches were. So far, the only light that lit my way were the ones in the utility closet and the one staircase to my left. After standing around for almost 20 minutes trying to figure things out, I finally decided to use the light on my phone to light my way around the darkened parts of the facility. I kept walking down another hallway where the only light was my phone and a lit-up exit sign. At this point, I could hear that there was a raging thunderstorm stirring up on the outside. Finally, I was able to locate the light switch that lit up both hallways. Slightly relieved, I set my phone on the shelf in the utility room and began my nightly task on that side of the building. After mopping both hallway floors, I propped the door of the one staircase open to provide some light in the darkened stairwell. I walked up that flight of stairs. When I reached the top of the stairwell, I suddenly heard the door at the bottom slam shut. I didn't give it much thought at first, but then realized that I had propped the door open with the rubber door stopper. How could this be? I quickly rushed down the steps to reopen the door. But to my surprise, the door was locked shut. Slightly panicking, I reached into my pockets to grab my phone to light my way so I could see better, but then realized that I had left my phone in the utility room.
Oh, shit. This cannot be happening.
I ran back up the 2 flights of stairs to try the door at the top, but it was locked shut as well. After several minutes, I began to scream out of frustration more than fear.
Oh, fuck! Damn it!
With the little bit of light that was provided by an exit sign, I could see that there was a fire alarm lever and decided I was going to pull it. But just as I reached over to do so, I could hear the door at the bottom creak wide open. I was perplexed. Didn't give it a second thought. I just ran down there as fast as I could and got the hell out of that staircase. My mind was trying to rationalize what just had happened. I thought to myself logically, maybe it was a security feature. Maybe the door was jammed. But how did it open up on its own? My racing mind slowly came back down to reality as I grabbed my phone and shoved it into my pocket. I have always been one of a rational mind, and a skeptical one at best. The rational part of my mind kept telling me, just get back to work. There's a reasonable explanation for everything. Or is there? I proceeded to continue with my task at the best of my ability as my rational mind returned. To help put me back at ease, I decided I would call a friend so I wouldn't feel so alone while I worked. I dialed my one friend as I pushed the Rubbermaid cleaning cart down the next hall. My friend wouldn't answer, and just as I hung my phone up, I could hear what sounded like workers working in the actual warehouse part, just beyond this other hallway. I was relieved that other people were there. as I could hear them talking. I walked down that side to make my presence known to them, but as I got closer, I noticed all the lights that reflected from the walls in that hallway emitting from the warehouse section began to shut down, one by one. As soon as I reached the warehouse entrance door, I saw that there was absolutely nobody in there. A flash of lightning struck outside the warehouse windows, lighting up one side of it. In that flash of lightning, I saw what appeared to be a white figure standing there. I froze in deep fear, and every hair on my body stood straight up as piercing tingles shot down my spine. I had never ran so fast in my entire life. As I ran down the hallway from the warehouse side, a large burst of lightning followed by a loud crash of thunder had knocked out all the power in the entire facility. At this point, I was running in the dark, and as I was running, I smacked face first into a concrete wall. All I remember was a bright flash and me hitting the floor. I could feel one side of my face was wet from blood. My face had been punctured pretty bad. I was having a hard time getting back up and was feeling very dizzy. I pulled my phone out to call 911 for help, but the dizzy spells were so intense at that point, I was unable to dial out. Fortunately, the emergency backup generator was functioning and the exit signs were still lit. As my heart pounds and I continue to bleed all over myself, I slowly head towards each exit point. It seemed like forever. Just as I was reaching the main exit door leading to the outside, I could hear what sounded like an unearthly screeching, and it was getting closer as it echoed through the halls. I ran out the exit door to the outside, roaring winds and stinging rain. It was pretty cold, and the cut on my face was burning from the stinging rain. I started screaming for help in hopes that even just a single soul was there to hear me. Soon, I ran into the main parking lot where I parked my car. But to make matters worse, my car was nowhere in sight. I was certain that my car was there. More thunder and lightning struck, and I ran into the dirt road to get the main one. I could still hear that terrifying screeching getting closer, as if it had followed me outside. I made another attempt to dial 911. My call went through, and a dispatcher answered, asking me for the location of my emergency.
What is the location of your emergency?
But just as I tried to tell her,
Hello?
the rain had soaked my phone all the way through, to the point that the dispatcher could not hear what I was saying.
Sir, you have to speak a little clearer. I can't hear you.
I'm sorry, sir, but I can't understand you. Can you please speak clearly? She said.
Hello?
Before I knew it, my phone had completely shut down. The rain had damaged it. The fear was so intense, and I never knew it was possible to feel like I did. It was surreal. I was running downhill on the dirt road. No lights and no one in sight. The screeching noises sounded like they were alongside the woods of the dirt road. Suddenly, as I ran even faster, I slipped and fell down a steep slope, injuring myself even further. To my surprise, I could see streetlights lighting up the main road. With only a couple 100 feet to go, I gave it my all, got up, and ran down. I began to walk on the shoulder of the road. After several minutes, a car slowly approached in front of me. I flagged the driver down, screaming for help. He stopped, and he could clearly see that I was injured. He got out and asked me if I was all right, and called me an ambulance. He let me sit in his car to wait for emergency services to arrive. After maybe 20 minutes, a police officer was the first to respond and arrive on the scene. He walked up to the car with his yellow reflective rain poncho and a mag light in hand. We rolled our windows down to engage him. He asked if we were the ones who called for the EMS.
Just here as a first responder. You guys
kind man replied, yes. He circled the vehicle to my window and asked me what had happened. I told him what had happened, why I was there, and that my vehicle was missing. He explained to me that I should not have been snooping around up there. As it had been abandoned for quite some time, it was considered private property. I could not believe what I was hearing. How is this reality? I thought to myself. The police officer was feeling empathetic because my car had been stolen and decided he would not charge me for trespassing, as he knew from my statement that I was led to believe that this was the location of my employment. After the cop ran my vehicle information and made the report, he told me that I had probably fell victim to a scam or a practical joke. But I was certain that was not the case. I wasn't going to argue my case, I just wanted out of there and to be back home. Fast forward. After my hospital visit and I make it home, I attempted to call my so-called employer for the second time, and it kept going to a voice prompt recording saying that the number was no longer in service. I browsed the internet and couldn't find any info about the man I had met about that job. I did a search on Google about the location and the building. It was true. The facility had been shut down for decades and was abandoned. The property was owned by the state. The original owner had been deceased. To this day, I am still trying to find out more information to gain more insight on what had happened to me. Either way, I'm thankful to still be alive and breathing. If you enjoyed this story and want to hear more just like it, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel.